Hello, my students. Welcome back to our channel. We will learn English through story. I'm going to share with you a touching and inspiring story about a young woman named Leila. Her journey is full of challenges, hope, and resilience. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into her story together. Leila was born in a small seaside town where the waves crashed against the rocks like a constant reminder that life never stood still. From the very beginning, she carried with her a quiet strength, the kind that did not shout but stayed steady, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. She grew up surrounded by simple joys, the smell of her grandmother's bread baking in the early mornings, the laughter of children playing outside in the narrow streets, and the sound of the call to prayer echoing through the neighborhood at sunset. These were the roots that shaped her, grounding her in a world that often seemed too big for her small voice. As a child, Leila was shy. She would rather listen than speak, and when people asked her questions, her answers were often soft, almost whispers, as though she was afraid her words might break. Teachers noticed her intelligence, but they also noticed her silence. At school, when everyone was asked to read aloud, her heart would pound so hard she thought the whole class could hear it. She wanted to speak, she wanted to be confident, but something always held her back, a fear of judgment, a fear of failure, a fear that her voice was not enough. Yet inside her, Leila carried dreams that no one else could see. At night, when the house was quiet and everyone had gone to sleep, she would open her notebook and write. She wrote about the stars, about the sea, about the stories she wished she could tell the world. Writing became her secret voice, the one she never shared with anyone. She promised herself that one day, she would find the courage to speak, not only on paper but out loud, so that the world could finally hear the words she had been holding inside. Years passed, and life began to test her in ways she could never have imagined. When her father lost his job, Leila stepped up to help her family. She found work in a small clothing shop, folding shirts, arranging dresses, and greeting customers with a polite smile. It wasn't the life she had dreamed of, but it was what she needed to do. At first, she struggled to speak to strangers. Her voice would tremble, and she often looked down at the floor instead of into their eyes. But slowly, day by day, she learned. She learned to ask, "How may I help you?" She learned to answer questions with more than a single word. She learned that confidence was not something given, it was something built, one brick at a time. There was one customer who changed everything. A woman walked into the shop one afternoon, dressed elegantly, her presence filling the room. She spoke with confidence, every word clear and full of certainty. When she asked Leila for help, Leila's voice almost failed her. But then something inside whispered, "This is your moment." She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and spoke clearly. To her surprise, the woman smiled warmly and said, "You have a beautiful way of speaking, my dear. Never hide it." Those words stayed with Leila. For the first time, she believed that her voice was not something to be ashamed of but something to be shared. Leila began to change. She started practicing at home, standing in front of the mirror, speaking out loud the way she had always written in her notebooks. She practiced reading aloud, she practiced telling stories, she practiced answering questions with confidence. It was not easy, sometimes her voice shook, sometimes she made mistakes, but she kept going. She realized that growth only came through discomfort. Each time she pushed herself beyond fear, she became a little stronger. Then came an opportunity that would test her like never before. A community center in her town announced a storytelling night, inviting people to share their personal experiences on stage. When Leila saw the poster, her heart raced. She wanted to join, but the thought of standing in front of a crowd made her hands tremble. For days, she argued with herself. One part of her said, "You're not ready. You'll embarrass yourself." Another part said, "This is your chance. Take it." On the night of the event, Leila almost didn't go. But something deep inside told her she would regret it forever if she stayed home. She walked into the hall, her notebook clutched tightly in her hands. When her name was called, she walked to the stage, her legs heavy, her heart pounding. For a moment, she froze. The lights were bright, the faces in the audience blurred together, and silence pressed down on her. But then she remembered the woman in the shop, the kind smile, the words that encouraged her. She took a deep breath and began to speak. Her voice trembled at first, but as she continued, it grew steadier. She shared her story, the story of a shy girl who was afraid to speak, who found courage in small steps, and who dreamed of inspiring others. The audience listened in silence, and when she finished, the room erupted in applause. Leila felt something she had never felt before, a deep sense of freedom. She had spoken, and the world had listened. From that day forward, Leila no longer hid her voice. She joined more events, she started helping others who struggled with confidence, and she even began teaching young girls how to speak up for themselves. She realized that her journey was not just about finding her own voice but about helping others find theirs. Every mistake she made along the way, every moment of fear, had prepared her for this. She understood now that courage was not the absence of fear but the decision to keep going despite it. Years later, when people looked at Leila, they saw a woman full of strength, someone who spoke with clarity, someone who carried herself with grace. But deep inside, Leila never forgot the little girl who once whispered instead of spoke. She carried her gently, like a reminder of how far she had come. In the end, Leila's story was not about perfection. It was about growth, resilience, and the courage to rise again and again, even when it was hard. Her voice became a symbol of hope, not just for herself but for everyone who had ever doubted their worth. And when she stood on stage one last time, sharing her journey with a new generation, she smiled and said, "If I can find my voice, so can you." Don't ever let fear silence the story you were born to tell. And with that, Leila stepped down from the stage, her heart full, her spirit unshaken, knowing that she had not only changed her own life but had lit a fire in the hearts of others. Thank you so much for watching Leila's story. I hope it inspired you and reminded you that even in the darkest times, there is always light ahead. You can come back, listen, and understand this story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Until next time, take care and keep believing in yourself.